Welcome to the final session before we get to the hacking part. I hope you're all well. Thank you very much for joining us. Today we have another really important session, really good session. We're going to talk about Challenge 2 with Tim Collart, my colleague from EMODnet. Also with us, we have Louis Demargne from FUGRO, who will give you some tips and advice on behalf of the blue economy, which again is a very big part of this hackathon, as all of these solutions are meant to either help us with research, with policy, or with the blue economy. So it will be great if you can go ahead and ask as many questions as you can. This is the chance. To also give you some statistics, we now have a little bit over 400 registrations for this hackathon, which is wonderful. We have participants from around the world. But only so far, approximately 130 of you have managed to get yourself into teams. We still have a little bit of time. Michele, at the very end of this session, is going to give you again some additional information on this. And we urge you to go ahead and do that. And again, for a final time, if you're already in the team and you have not already sent us an email to get into the editor platform, the Digital Twin Ocean platform, please go ahead and do so we can add you. It is a manual process as we are in testing phase of the platform still. And you will be the first external users who are granted access. So please go ahead, give us your details, and we'll make sure that you're set by the time we begin the hacking next week. So now I'm going to pass on to Michele, and we're going to get started right away.
Thank you so much, Angeliki. So as always, house rules. So the webinar is being recorded. We will upload it on YouTube, and you can find it under the Sessions tab. Questions, you can ask them using the Q&A button or the chat. So whatever you prefer. And we will reply to them at the end of each one of the presentations from Tim and from Louis. If you have any more questions that we cannot answer during this webinar, you can always ask them on Discord, on the general channel, where you can find all of us. Now, before we go on, what is the agenda? After my brief welcome with the house rules, we will explore the challenge number 2 with Tim. And then after Tim, we will have Louis Demargne from FUGRO to talk about the blue economy. At the end, we will have some next steps, more specifically, what's coming next, right? We're going to have a hackathon kickoff, and also we will provide more details about the final pitching and award ceremony. So without further ado, let's watch together the video for the challenge number 2, EMODnet for a healthy and productive marine environment.
Hello, my name is Tim Collart. I am a marine and geospatial data expert at the Marine Secretariat. And I'm thrilled to be your coach for challenge number 2, EMODnet for a healthy and productive marine environment. So challenge 2 is all about using EMODnet marine in situ data to improve EU policies in the broader context of the EU Green Deal. EMODnet offers access to a wide range of marine in situ observations of different marine environmental parameters. These can be used by member states to improve their assessment of good environmental status. They can assist the regional sea conventions in developing their quality status reports, and they can support the European Environment Agency and European Commission services to get a better understanding of European seas and the ecosystems they harbor. So how can EMODnet data be applied to address marine environmental challenges more effectively? Can you think of new tools or applications that can make these datasets more accessible or more actionable by policymakers? I invite you to think of innovative ways that EMODnet can improve marine environmental assessments at European, regional, and national levels.
All right, so welcome on stage, team, Marine Data Analyst and GIS Support Officer at EMODnet to talk about the challenge number 2. Welcome, team.
Thank you, Michele. So welcome everyone to this fifth live session for the EMODnet Open Sea Lab. I'm going to introduce you the Challenge 2, for which I am the lead mentor. It's all about EMODnet for a healthy and productive marine environment. A little bit about myself. I work at the EMODnet Secretariat. I was trained as a marine geologist, and I specialize in marine and geospatial data management. I also love to communicate about science. As part of my work, I'm also managing some websites that aim to bring marine data closer to teachers and students. And in my free time, I really like to be out in nature, be outside, be in the water. I'm very much into environmentalism, and I also love to surf. And because of that, this challenge actually quite close to my heart. So the marine environment provides us with a lot of ecosystem services. So these are things, I put an image here with some examples of those. For example, it provides a lot of resources, it provides sands for building materials, it provides genetic resources, seaweed that can be harvested, offshore energy, and then as well, of course, fish and shell food stocks for nutrition. It also provides a lot of cultural services, provides tourism opportunities, beautiful seascapes for people to enjoy, inspiration for science and education, but also creativity and art. It promotes health and well-being. It promotes recreation, surfing, for example, wildlife watching. And then it also provides some other benefits. For example, marine ecosystems can provide storm protection along coasts. They break down waste and cause detoxification. Also in the climate change scenario, the ocean absorbs a lot of carbon and regulates the climate and the weather. And marine ecosystems can also stabilize sediments, which would otherwise cause landslides and tsunamis. And then finally, it also has a big supporting role. So it's a major part of the food web on which also we humans also depend. Provides nutrient cycling, water cycling, provides a habitat for many species and biodiversity, and it also regulates water currents and sediment transport. However, the ocean and the marine environment also faces many challenges. Many of them actually begin on land. It's mostly unsustainable use of resources, pollution and litter from plastic pollution, for example, or pollution from agricultural runoff or industrial pollution. A lot of that ends up in the ocean. As we all know, litter is becoming an increasing problem, with microplastics being found all over, also making their way into the food chain. Then there's also a lot of activities at sea. While they are very important for the economy and for the blue economy, they also have their challenges. For example, aquaculture, there are some unsustainable practices where they cause also eutrophication, and the use of medications can also adversely affect the marine ecosystem. There's overfishing, where we are depleting natural fish stocks and we're not fishing within the biological limits of some species. All of this, together with climate change, is causing a dramatic decline in marine biodiversity. There's also growing threats of new industries like deep sea mining. And then there's also, while shipping, it's very important for our current economy. It also has still quite a big impact on the marine environment. So how will we tackle these challenges so that we can keep the marine environment to provide us these vital ecosystem services? In order to achieve this, the EU has adopted the Marine Strategy Framework Directive. I'm going to explain you a little bit what that is. But first, I asked an AI to generate me an illustration of the Marine Strategy Framework Directive. And while it put some jellyfish in the sky and some monstera plants in the ocean, it did do quite a good job of illustrating the objective. Is basically creating a marine environment that's thriving and also supporting a sustainable blue economy. So the Marine Strategy Framework Directive, it's an EU policy that was adopted in 2008. And it's a holistic framework that's based on that aims to provide an ecosystem-based approach to protect and conserve the EU coast, the seas, the ocean, and ensure their sustainable use. It's holistic in that it's also building on a lot of other EU legislation. For example, the Water Framework Directive, the Birds and Habitats Directive, aimed at conserving biodiversity, the Common Fisheries Policy, aimed at keeping fishing within biological limits, the Blue Economy and Maritime Spatial Planning Policy Frameworks, Urban Wastewater Treatment, Single-Use Plastic Directive, and many more EU legislations that are aimed at protecting the environment. And in that, it also contributes to the ambitions of the European Green Deal, namely the EU Biodiversity Strategy for 2030 and the Zero Pollution Action Plan. If you're interested and want to read a bit more, I put a link there that very well explains what the Marine Strategy Framework Directive is and what it aims to do. So what's its objective? It's to achieve a good environmental status, or GES, for the EU marine waters. Now, what do we mean with good environmental status? It's broken down in about 11 qualitative descriptors, which I put in an image on the left, and I will go over them briefly. So the first one is to maintain biological diversity. The second one is non-indigenous species that are introduced by human activities. Think of ships bringing species from different parts of the world in a new ecosystem, that they do not adversely affect the local ecosystem, that populations of commercial fish and shellfish are being sustained so that they're within their biological limits and that we can sustain them far into the future. That all the elements that marine or human activities make sure that all elements of the marine food webs, as far as we know, are there and are abundant, so that the food web is not in danger of collapse, that we minimize eutrophication, and that we make sure that eutrophication, if it does exist, does not impact the marine ecosystems, that we keep seafloor integrity, so we do not damage the seafloor in a way that it can no longer support the marine ecosystems, that we don't alter hydrographical conditions. This can be, for example, construction of a seawall or offshore constructions, but can as well include changing of hydrographical conditions through climate change, for example, that they do not adversely affect the ecosystem. That concentration of contaminants are, first of all, minimized, and that so that they do not impact the ecosystem, but also that contaminants in our seafood actually are at levels that are safe for human consumption. Finally, to reduce marine litter up to a point where it does not adversely affect the ecosystem. And then finally, limit the introduction of energy in the water. This includes, for example, underwater noise from shipping. So these are kind of the 11 descriptors of what we can see as a good environmental status in the marine environment. And it's the policy, the Marine Strategy Framework Directive actually mandates that each member state of the EU needs to develop a marine strategy, a national marine strategy, in order to achieve this good environmental status. Another requirement is that this strategy includes actually spatial protection measures, such as marine protected areas, and that there's a coherent and representative network of these protected areas. I put on a map here the EMODnet viewer with some of those marine protected areas. You can see the nationally designated ones, the ones from the regional sea conventions, I will get to that later, and from the Natura 2000 sites as well. And a third important part of this Marine Strategy Framework Directive is actually regional and international collaboration. As you know, seas, they don't stop at the border, so collaboration is really important here for these measures to be effective. So first one is the regional sea conventions. Those are actually conventions around the different marine basins in the EU. So we have, for example, HELCOM, the Helsinki Convention for the Baltic Sea, which you can see in the image here in salmon color. We have the OSPAR Convention for the North Atlantic, that's here in yellow. The Barcelona Convention, UNEP for the Mediterranean, and then the Bucharest Convention for the Black Sea. But also beyond these regional areas, it's aimed to have international cooperations, for example, with the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, UNCLOS, the Convention on Biological Diversity, and the Sustainable Development Goal 14. I put a lot of links here, which you can all explore, because I think you will receive the presentation afterwards. So how are we going to implement this Marine Strategy Framework Directive? So a marine strategy needs to include 5 steps. The first one is to assess what is the current environmental status of the marine waters and what is the environmental impact of the human activities. Then we have to define what is a good environmental status in our marine waters. And then we have to set an environmental target and decide on some indicators on how we can measure progress towards that target. Then we need to monitor that progress towards that target and also monitor to update targets if required. And finally, we need to develop measures as a policy, for example, that allow us to then finally achieve that good environmental status. This is kind of the framework, which is called Implementation Directive, of how member states should address this MSFD, which, to be honest, not an easy task. So when is this happening? So the original Marine Strategy Framework Directive was actually meant to have good environment status by 2020. It was very ambitious, but of course, as I already said, this is a very complex matter. So it's still ongoing, and it's being implemented in 6-year cycles. So the first implementation cycle was ended in 2017. And I've put on the screen here an image of actually the assessment of this good environmental status in 2018 for the different countries. And here I've grouped them for all the good environmental status indicators. You can go to this website and actually look indicator by indicator. And you can see that, okay, in some EU marine areas, the good environmental status has been achieved in blue. But in most of the areas, it's either been not achieved or there's some mixed result, which means some of the indicators have been achieved, but some are not. And not all areas, it's actually, it has been reported. So this was followed by second implementation cycle. And since last year, we started in the third implementation cycle. There was also, which came out actually this month, an evaluation report of the Marine Strategy Framework Directive. And it's a very interesting read. There's also a short summary if you don't have much time. But I want to actually take 2 points here from that evaluation report because they're relevant to our challenge. So first of all, MSFD, it set up a comprehensive framework to protect the marine waters. However, this good environmental status, it's not been achieved for all descriptors, for all regions, so there's still a lot of work to go. And then second one, and maybe for us more important, is that MSFD, what it has done is it enabled actually a lot of marine data to be collected and to get knowledge from that, to better understand the marine ecosystems. However, the monitoring that's going on is still insufficient because the marine ecosystems, they are very complex. So we need a lot of data and there is still need for more data. And the second one is, well, a lot of data is being collected. There is a lack of actually a standardized approach. And this causes that the data that's collected is not always accessible or cannot always be reused, for example, to assess the status at a European scale. So there is still some work to do to make that marine data more fair. And eventually that will improve the quality of the good environmental status assessments. And from that, there will follow more effective measures to actually reach the good environmental status. And with those kind of working points, I actually come to our Open Sea Lab Challenge 2, where EMODnet aims to help a healthy and productive marine environment. So I put the text of the challenge here. So how might we leverage EMODnet's in situ data and data products to support EU policies for the marine environment by enhancing multidisciplinary evidence base for the Marine Strategy Framework Directive, as well as the Birds and Habitats Directive in a wider context of the EU Green Deal. So the focus should be on details localized in situ data, for example, from EMODnet, to support this kind of policy implementation. So now it's a bit up to you. How do you think EMODnet data can help improve, for example, the marine environment assessment of this good environmental status? Can you think of any tools to use? As we've seen, there's a lack of data, and EMODnet offers a lot of data, but it's not, this data doesn't always make it to the policymakers, or is not actionable enough for the policymakers. Can you think of ways to make that data more actionable? Just thinking out of the box, or maybe an obvious one is to make EMODnet data searchable, for example, by these different indicators. So really, it's up to you now to come up with actually new ideas to use data from EMODnet, as well as other sources, to actually improve the environmental status assessments for the Marine Strategy Framework Directive. I listed a number of data sources. Of course, EMODnet is there. It's one of the required data sources for this hackathon. But there's also data from Marine Copernicus, which you can use, both of which, by the way, are available through the Edito platform. Then there is the Wise Marine platform that collects actually a lot of the data that's collected in the framework of the Marine Strategy Framework Directive, and where you will find a lot of useful information as well. And then there's, of course, the European Environment Agency, which provides a lot of data and assessments, which will definitely have a look at their website as well. So with this, I come to the end of my presentation, and I open the floor for questions.
Thank you very much, Tim. Let's see if we do have any questions. It was a very good presentation, very inclusive, and the links are going to be super useful to everyone, I believe. So whether we have participants today that are in Challenge 2, or generally, if you have any questions, given the fact that Tim's presentation does cover a wide range of marine directives and policies, that is very, very good for you to know when you go into this event.
Maybe,
so,
yeah, maybe important to say, like, I covered it very high level, but there's good environmental status. There's many indicators, so you can really focus on one of them, or you can focus on multiple. So there's a lot of freedom for you to try and find a solution. Let's say you can focus on litter, you can focus on biodiversity. So please have a look at all the resources. And if you have questions now, or if you have questions later during the hackathon, please reach out on Discord.
Okay, I don't see any questions now. I do see some hearts and applause coming by, which is wonderful. And indeed, Tim, of course, is a lead mentor, so he's already on the platform. You can redirect your questions there. If he cannot, if they are for any reason out of his scope, or if it's about other type of data, he can always redirect you. For now, thank you so much, Tim, for that great presentation. And we will pass on to, we'll continue with Louis. Louis, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, first of all, thank you very much to the team at EMODnet, Galiki and Tim and Michele for inviting me to present at this webinar. It's a real pleasure for me to be here. It's quite exciting to be involved in this Open Sea Lab Hackathon 4.0. So I'm Louis Demargne, and I'm with a company called FUGRO. It's based in its headquarters in The Hague in the Netherlands. And what I'd like to do over the next 20 minutes is really to give you an industry perspective on some of the challenges and opportunities we see in the blue economy. And hopefully this will trigger some ideas for you all for this hackathon, specifically for challenge number 2, of course, but perhaps also more broadly, really trying to bring a view of the need for a healthy ocean using a private industry lens, let's say, on the topic. So, okay, so first of all, for those of you who are not familiar with FUGRO, we specialize in collecting geodata and really to extract insights from that geodata to support our clients, both in private sector, but also public sector, in managing their project risks throughout the project life cycle. So during the planning, construction, operation of their assets. We use this sort of map, model, monitor approach to help clients in the energy infrastructure, but also water sectors. And many of these clients whose businesses and whose communities depend very much on a healthy ocean to not just survive, but to thrive.
I think Louise is frozen.
Yes. Let's see. We will.
Durable assets, be they natural or built up. So that's us in a nutshell. So as a company, we operate a broad range of technologies to collect this geodata from the Earth's surface and the subsurface, whether that's from the bottom of the ocean right up into space. And we integrate all of this data to generate those insights. And really, we work also closely with a number of different publicly available platforms, but particularly we partner with EMODnet, where we provide some of the data we collect, but we also use some of EMODnet's data to, for example, plan some of our missions. And so if we paint a picture a little bit of what this ocean digital ecosystem would look like, combining some of that EMODnet.
Okay, we lose.
Yes.
Yes.
We lost Louis.
Maybe we can ask. I don't know if Louis can you hear us, Louis?
Yes.
I'm sorry, because we keep the sound that goes away.
Okay.
Okay. Now let's continue and see if it happens again. Maybe we'll yeah, we'll see.
Okay. Yep, that might be an internet connection probability. So I was saying that with this, in the integration of all these different data layers, we are moving towards this near real-time digital twin of the ocean that really opens up a broad range of potential applications for built up and natural assets, right? It's that sort of ocean digital geodata ecosystem. Is the sound better? Okay. All right, so what I thought I'd do, there were a number of different use cases I was thinking of presenting, but given the short time, I've had to select a few. So hopefully, like I said, these will trigger some ideas. And I've kind of organized them according to three types. There's the operational challenges that we as a company face when operating in the ocean. And what are some of the things that we can think about there? Industry challenges. So this is more our clients, be they private sector or public sector. And then I also see some economic and regulatory challenges for you to think about. So I'll start with the operational challenges. Of course, you all know that 71% of the Earth's surface is ocean, but we know very little about it. Right? Only 26% of the seafloor has been mapped directly. And if you think about the fact that the average depth of the ocean is 3,700 meters, that's huge. And there are estimates that only something like 5% of the whole water or ocean volume has actually been explored. So there's lots to be explored. But so we have a fleet of about 20 vessels roaming the ocean, collecting data. These vessels sometimes have 50 to 60 people on board, and we send them out there into the ocean, and it's a difficult place to work in. And so planning missions, assessing operational risks, and really ensuring the safety of our crew is a key part of that mission. And to help us do that, we like to use as much data as we can, existing data, so including EMODnet data sets, as I mentioned, Copernicus, information products and forecasts and so on, to do some accurate planning so that we make sure we mitigate any possible risks. So I want to talk to you about one specific project just to give you a bit of a taste of what it's like to operate in the ocean. And some of you might be very familiar with what I'm going to talk about now in terms of what it's like. So this is a project we did in 2015-16 to help with the search of the wreckage of the Malaysia Airlines MH370 aircraft. What you see here in red is an area that we collected. So this is from the Seabed 2030 platform. So the light blue areas are areas where we actually have data collected that was measured directly through multi-beam echo sounder and these types of sensors. And the areas that are dark is where the data that we have is actually very low resolution and only acquired by satellite. So essentially, the statistic of that we only have 26% of the seafloor mapped comes from this Seabed 2030 data platform. So this is a screenshot from their platform. So this area in red is an area we collected. It's 175 square kilometers. So I think that equates to roughly 6 times the size of the country of Belgium. But it took us more than 6 months with 3 vessels to acquire all of this with different technologies. And just to give you an idea, from our port where we were, from Perth to the area where we were supposed to acquire, that was already took us 4 to 6 days to navigate at the usual cruising speed of a vessel from the port of call to the area, just to give you an idea of how vast these areas are. Here is a brief video, so hopefully, I know the sound won't work, but just to give you an idea a little bit of what it's like. So this was filmed directly from the deck of one of our vessels, the FUGRO Equator. And it was in the middle of the ocean, and we knew a storm was coming, but decided to stay out because it would have taken us 4 to 5 days to go back to the port. And we were in these waves that are roughly 18 meters from trough to crest. And the vessel itself is only about 14 meters above water. So pretty hairy conditions. And sometimes we still have to try to operate equipment. Well, not in these particular conditions, but in quite rough weather. Anyway, just to give you a little bit of a sense. I'll stop it there. It's also quite awe-inspiring, I think, and humbling when you're on a vessel and seeing this. All right, so just to give you an idea of the kind of data that we collected, and I couldn't find the same area to compare on what was there before we collected the data and after, but you can already see the level of detail that's acquired here, and there was throughout the area a large number of new features were discovered, like underwater volcanoes and some geological features, and I think scientists will be poring over this data for many years still. So it is difficult to operate in the ocean, and what I want to bring it back to for this first of 3 sort of challenges is that we've been thinking, well, how do we take people out of harm's way? How can we operate in the ocean more safely? And of course, this has given rise to what we call blue robotics. So the use of uncrewed vessels, whether they are on the surface of the ocean or underwater, to be able to do the work that people currently do on crewed vessels. So the rise of blue robotics really does offer the opportunity to operate these sensors remotely. It provides safety because people are now operating these from an office that's on land. There's flexibility because then we can operate 24/7 if we rotate people much more easily, right? And of course, there's a much lower carbon CO2 footprint for these vessels, and it is highly scalable in the sense as if we build hundreds of these, we could have a swarm running the oceans 24/7. The challenge that we still face is that there are regulatory barriers. There are some countries where these uncrewed vessels cannot navigate because there are no people on board. There's no rules or policies to manage that. So how do we get over that barrier? We also have a bit of a challenge in figuring out what are the data gaps to prioritize. We might think, well, let's go and do bathymetry, but maybe some other need might require a different type of data to be collected. So how do we factor that into the development of these blue robots, let's call them? And then also how do we then optimize operations and avoid downtime? Because if we're leaving these things out in the middle of nowhere, it's going to be difficult to go and let's say service them. So these are some questions that perhaps thinking through EMODnet, Copernicus, and Edito, is there something that we can think of that could help us resolve some of these challenges? But this is a growing field, and FUGRO is definitely involved in developing these systems, but not the only one by any stretch. All right, that was the first set of challenges. This is the next one. So this one more linked to the clients that we work with in the private sector, but also the public sector and industry. One industry that we do work with quite closely is offshore renewables. And you know, the wind farms have been developed for the last 25 years or more. So some of these earlier wind farms are coming up to closer towards their end of life, as we say. But there is a challenge, therefore, for asset owners to see how they can extend the life of some of these assets. For the newer farms, it's more a question of how can we optimize their maintenance. One model is to say, well, I'm going to go and inspect this wind farm every 6 months, but another one may be more risk-based. I know that there's so many storms that have run through the area, so maybe I need to inspect now, and then I can not inspect for the next 9 months. So something that's a bit more optimized. And then, of course, how do we build some of these assets in a more sustainable way, use fewer resources, perhaps? So these are all questions that asset owners ask themselves. But one a particular challenge where maybe the use of EMODnet and Edito can help is in providing perhaps more accurate forecasts and models of some of the things that are stressors to these assets. I'm thinking of current sediment movements. There's an issue around wind turbines at the base of the wind turbines that with the currents, there's a lot of scouring that occurs, and that if it's a bit too extreme, can destabilize some of these windmills and create all sorts of problems. Also, the power cables that go from these wind farms to shore can they're usually buried, but maybe with some of the sediment movements can become loose and so on. And so there's a number of these problems that are very, very hard to model, to predict, and perhaps if we were able to do that more accurately, would provide us for a safer and also more reliable energy provision through these wind farms. So these are some of the things that keep some of our clients awake at night. Another one is around what is the impact on biodiversity of some of these structures. So yes, certainly during construction, you know, we're digging holes, we're banging metal, that creates a lot of noise. But once these structures are in place, what we're seeing is that they are acting a little bit like artificial reefs. And so there is life that attaches, that brings even more biodiversity and so on. And so national governments now are asking some of these operators to, when they are bidding for work, for licenses to install new offshore wind farms, to explain how they're going to address this, how they're going to measure this. So there is a need, but there's very little detail on exactly how we measure this biodiversity impact and how we monitor it to really show that there is that net positive biodiversity gain. So I think this is again an area with some of the EMODnet data, Copernicus, Edito. We can look at that more closely and figure out what makes sense to measure as a baseline, and then what makes sense to monitor through time to really have an accurate picture and measurement of how these structures are impacting net biodiversity gain in these areas. So those are just two examples, let's say, in the industry sector. And now I will come to my third aspect, which is more linked to economic and regulatory challenges. So this is going a little bit broader than just our traditional set of organizations that we deal with and some of the things that we're seeing. So I'm going to pull up this first graph. And so what we see is that despite these multi-dimensional threats that are facing the world's oceans that Tim talked about in the previous conversation, what we're seeing is that the Sustainable Development Goal 14 of the UN Sustainable Development Agenda, it's called Life Below Water, really continues to receive the least funding of all. This was highlighted by a study in 2022 from the World Economic Forum and was discussed at the UN Ocean Conference already in Lisbon that same year. This graph here was actually done by the OECD, and it was done in 2019, so pre-COVID, about 5 years ago. But I think it's quite relevant. This was a survey done of more than 3,800 world leaders, asking them what for them were the top 3 sustainable development goals. And you can see quite consistently 4 on quality of education, economics, and peace and justice were the ones. But more surprisingly is that life below water by far was the one that was the least selected as being important. So we really do have a challenge here. And this is something I wanted to bring up. And what is that challenge? Well, first of all, is we have to win hearts and minds, right? This is what this graph and this lack of investment is telling us. So we need to continue, maybe even increase communication and awareness and understanding of the ocean, because today it's still quite limited and it's kind of hindering our ability to let's say, to encourage investment. So this lack of information particularly within the financial sector, can cause issues, right? And here I'm talking about blue finance. Sorry, I wanted to mention what I mean by blue finance, which is an emerging field. But simply put, these are the financial initiatives and investments that are specifically geared towards sustainable use of our oceans and marine resources, right? So how can we increase these investments into the blue economy? So some of the barriers that I'm talking about here, how can we use, again, an EMODnet and EDITO to change that, right? So some of these other ones, I think it was mentioned perhaps earlier, but this dependency on is really overlooked, right? The dependence of economic and financial systems on the marine ecosystems, right? This diagram really highlights this. The fact that the economy depends on the ocean for a myriad of ecosystem services, and that many sectors derive financial value from the ocean. This is still misunderstood or overlooked. There's also the issue of the complexity of ocean governance frameworks that is making investors a little bit shy, who actually, this governance can be seen as fragmented and with overlapping jurisdictional responsibilities, and who actually owns a particular piece of ocean and so on. This seems to be a barrier. And then last but not least is, how do we effectively measure the return on investment and the impact of certain activities? This is also important for folks investing in blue finance, right? They want to understand what is the return on investment from an economic but also a societal point of view, and what is the impact, and how can we mitigate the risk of this impact really not happening. So that's more on the blue finance. And last one before I finish, a very specific one. So of course the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework was adopted during COP15 and includes goals and targets on biodiversity conservation by 2030. And one of its key targets is the effective conservation and management of at least 30% of the world's ocean. And so many UN member states have taken that on board and are looking to establish marine protected areas, right, towards this goal. But there are a number of challenges there. First of all, how do we identify and define these marine protected areas? What criteria do we use? Some states already have a marine spatial plan in place, others do not. How do the MPAs fit with that? How do we then, once it is in place, how do we then regulate and enforce these MPAs, right? Who is responsible for enforcing, or, for example, making sure that there aren't any illegal activities like illegal fishing in those areas? And then also, how is that budgeted, right? So yes, so there is a challenge also to detect and mitigate those illegal activities. And finally, there is the challenge of measuring that return on investment, in, so to speak, from an economic and societal point of view, to encourage further and more durable funding, let's say, for some of these activities. So these are all, I think, challenges where, again, EMODnet somehow, the data there and with EDITO, using those what-if scenarios, we can help to not just identify and monitor these marine protected areas, but really show how important and what the impact of this activity really is on the economy and on local communities. So I think I've probably used up all of my time. I will stop there. This is just a slide to say that FUGRO is also contributing to other programs. So putting our money where our mouth is, so to speak, in the Ocean Decade, Seabed 2030, and so on. But thank you, and I'd be happy to take on any questions you might have.
Thank you very much, Louis. I have to say that both of these presentations we've had today are invaluable resources, whether you're participating in a hackathon or not, for the sake of knowledge, of understanding even better where we are in the marine community. Additionally, for some context, I'm sure you have already understood how important the company FUGRO is. They are also an invaluable partner to EMODnet. Indeed, not only to EMODnet, but I think to the global ocean community. Thank you, Louis. And as a final context piece, Louis is also a jury member of this hackathon. So let's see if we have any questions already. Let's see. I have to say, Louis, that some of the things that you shared today, I was not aware of. It really, I think that that it would be great to just share your presentation wider.
Sure.
Yes.
Happy to do that. Yeah, and I had to pick a few use cases. I could have talked about blue carbon. I could have talked about, preparedness and response to natural hazards and all that stuff. But yeah, so there's lots.
Yes.
There are many challenges, and that's what makes it exciting, right?
On the one thing, unfortunately so, but on the other hand, indeed, there are already great things happening, and the fact that the blue economy is participating very actively in helping with solutions is also something to be optimistic about, I believe.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
So we can wait a little bit, and we'll just wait another minute or so, and then we do have 10 minutes left. There was a question about rivet connectivity and migratory fish species, distribution abundance in Sweden. I have already replied to Bijoy Kumar that if he wants any further information, we do have, EMODnet does have river data. As I mentioned in my reply, it is a unique product. And if there are any questions, Bijoy, we can reply to those. You can also send it on the platform. Okay. So you can continue sending us your questions. Louis will not be able to answer your questions after this sessions. But we will do our best to help you on that day. So, okay. We don't have anything at this point. Thank you so much, Louis, for being with us and for sharing your expertise on this.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
And okay, we will go on now with Michele, who wants to provide us with some final instructions. Again, thanks also to Tim. And I will see you both. We will be all seeing you both. So Tim will be part of your experience during the 2 hacking days. And then Louis will be the one with the rest of our jury members be deciding which are the best teams, etc. And we'll also be announcing some of the winners. So we will all be seeing each other again quite soon, actually. Michele, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Louis and Tim, once again, really. It's been great presentations. So let me share my screen. So the most important thing right now is that there is only 1 day left to join a team. And basically, let me go over once again how to do that. So here we are on Event Tornado. You have 2 options to do that. Actually, 3 options. The first one is that you go to the participants tab. So in here, you see all the participants that are registered. I would suggest you filter by looking for a team, and then maybe also for some skills if you're looking for specific skills to complete your team. So after you do this, you can ask these people to join your team, or maybe create a team together if you are not in a team yet. Another thing that I would like to point out is that it doesn't matter if you don't have an idea. So you can also create your own team without any idea. And then while you go on the first day of the hackathon, talk with your mentors, because we will assign mentors to each one of the teams. So you can talk with them. You can come up with an idea with rapid ideation in a couple of hours, and then you will be still on time to submit all the deliverables and participate in the hackathon. So if it's the lack of an idea stopping you to join this hackathon, don't worry about that. You can come up with an idea on the first few hours of the hackathon with the help of the mentors. The second way is to go to the Teams tab, the second way to find a team. So in here, you can, for example, filter by the challenge that is interesting you the most. Maybe I'm filtering by challenge 2, of course, today. So here you can see all the teams participating in challenge number 2. We have 6 teams. You can click on one of them, and then you can read the description. And if you like it, then you can click on apply to join this team. So this way, the team leader will receive my application and can decide whether to accept me or not. You can also, while you apply to join this team, you can also write a message and say, hi, I would like to apply to join this team because I have these skills. I think it would be beneficial for your team, and so on. So you have the chance also to leave a message when you apply. The third one is our Discord. So if I go to Discord, you know already that we have a Find Your Team channel with a lot of active people here. And then you can paste the link of your idea if you're looking for additional members, talk about yourself if you're looking for a team. So this is the place where the community is joining to find a team. So this would be my advice on how to find a team. Again, we have one day left to do that. Now let's go to see what are the next steps for the hackathon. So today was the last live session, and we will get together again on the 25th of March, so next week. At 10 a.m., we will have a hackathon kickoff. It will be a webinar. During this webinar, it's going to last like 20 or 15 or 20 minutes. Basically, in there, we will share once again, the hackathon agenda and some key information about the hackathon. And this time, we will not send you a calendar as we did for all the live sessions, but we will send you a link directly to join in an email from Event Tornado. I will skip the second day because the second day is just a hackathon day, normal hackathon day. You will have deliverables to submit. We will tell you everything about that on the hackathon kickoff. But on the 27th of March, we will have the final event. In the final event, which is going to happen at 3 p.m. Central European time, we will basically, it will be the pitching ceremony and the winner's announcement, where the teams we will play the videos of 10 finalists, the 10 finalist team, and then you will have the chance to reply to the questions of Louis here, because Louis is one of the jury members, as we said before, and also reply to the questions of the other jury members. Also, in this case, we will send you the link from Event Tornado. We will not send you a calendar invite. So let me talk also about the prizes that we have for the hackathon. This is very, very important also. So the top 2 winning teams will have the chance to showcase the idea at the European Maritime Day in Cork 2025. You can present your innovation and basically gain visibility for your idea. This prize will be given again to the top 2 winning teams. And then for the next 5 best ideas, they will receive a 500 euros experience gift voucher. You can use whatever you want. So basically here you can choose the experience that you like, and then you can have an experience with the whole team. So this will be the prizes, and maybe I will give the word back to Angeliki for some final remarks.
And actually, thank you. Thank you very much, Michele. We do have an additional prize. We have some really fun mini challenges that you can participate in during the hackathon. They are quick, They're meant to be fun and creative, and just to, to give you something to do while you're hacking in a very intense manner. This can be considered a mini break for you, and we hope that a lot of you will participate. They involve creating some fun things. I'm not going to say yet for EMODnet, and you're going to use your social media, preferably your LinkedIn profile. And we are going to be giving CPUs for the European Digital Twin Ocean platform. I think that for you, especially for anyone who does work a lot with data, and if you've had experience having to download the data on your own computer, etc., it is truly an invaluable tool. So I think it's really worth participating as well. And that is going to be also part of the prize pool. So you're going to find all about it once you start hacking. I think that this is it for now. We are out of time. We would like to thank you all for participating. We look very much forward to seeing you in the hackathon. We look forward to see what ideas you come up with. Just so you know, we really take your ideas on board. They are being examined after the hackathon by commission members, by experts who do care to see good solutions. And we have had past EMODnet hackathon participants really forward their career, forward their ideas in a variety of manners. So go ahead, even in this weekend, connect with your teams, discuss a little bit more from the information you have seen also today from Louis and Tim and all the previous warm-up sessions. Go over their presentations, go over their videos, work a little bit further your idea, and we will see you all on the 25th. And that is it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
See you soon.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Bye-bye.
See you on the 25th.
Ciao, ciao.
Bye bye.